AITA for calling off my wedding after my fiancée partied while I was recovering from surgery? I am 32 years old. I am a lineman for the power company. I have been working on high-voltage lines for 8 years. Good pay, decent benefits, but this job can get you when you least expect it. 3 months ago, I learned that the hard way when a transformer housing gave out, and I fell nearly 16 feet onto concrete. The result was a shattered left shoulder, 3 fractured ribs, and a concussion that had me seeing double for weeks. The fall happened during what was supposed to be a routine maintenance call, a simple replacement of a blown fuse. The weather was perfect, the equipment seemed to be in good shape, but the mounting bracket was far more corroded than it looked. As soon as I put my weight on it, the whole thing crumbled like a dry cracker. 16 feet. It does not sound like much until you are falling backward with 40 pounds of gear strapped to you. The safety harness caught me, but the abrupt stop violently yanked my shoulders to the point that I heard a pop before I even felt the pain. I landed hard on the concrete slab around the transformer, and everything went black for about 10 minutes. My crew chief, Gordon, found me face down, barely conscious, mumbling about seeing double. The guys later told me I kept asking if the fuse had been installed, as if my brain was stuck on autopilot while I was completely dazed. Gordon said I looked like I had been hit by a truck, with my left arm hanging at a weird angle that made everyone feel sick. The workers' compensation paperwork was a nightmare. 3 different doctors, 2 insurance adjusters, and a company safety inspector who kept asking if I had followed protocol correctly. Gordon had my back the whole time, making sure I did not get steamrolled by some bureaucrat trying to pin the blame on human error. The company skimps on equipment inspections, he told me privately. This accident is on them, not you. The paramedic said I was lucky the harness worked. The ER doctor was an old-timer who had seen his share of construction accidents, and he did not sugarcoat things. Your shoulder is in bad shape, he said, looking at the x-rays. We are talking reconstructive surgery, months of physical therapy, and you might never get your full range of motion back. The surgery lasted 4 hours. They had to rebuild the joint with pins and screws. When I woke up, I felt like my entire upper body had been taken apart and put back together by someone who had lost the instruction manual. I had been with my now ex-fiancée, Brielle, 29, for 4 years, engaged for 8 months. Before my accident, everything seemed to be going pretty well. I was making a good living as a senior lineman. She worked part-time doing social media for a yoga studio, making maybe $25,000 a year on a good year. When we moved in together 2 years ago, it made sense for me to cover the major expenses since my credit was not a disaster and I had a steady income. I was earning about $85,000 a year with overtime, while she barely made enough to cover her own personal costs. Everything was in my name. The lease on our nice 2-bedroom apartment, the utilities, the loan for her Jeep Cherokee that I had co-signed, the phones, the insurance, everything. She contributed to groceries and handled her personal expenses, which was not much since I was practically funding her lifestyle. The Jeep alone cost me $400 a month, but she needed a reliable vehicle for her part-time job. I thought I was being a good future husband, building something for our marriage like my dad had taught me. But there was always this massive red flag I kept ignoring. Her best friend, Caleb. He was 30, worked a dead-end job at a bike shop, and acted like he was the one in a relationship with my fiancée. They had been best friends since college. According to Brielle, their bond was sacred and unbreakable. He had access to the apartment as if he lived there. I would come home after a 12-hour day repairing lines after a storm and find him sprawled on my couch, drinking my beer and playing my PlayStation. When I brought up boundaries, Brielle said I was being controlling. The bike shop where Caleb worked was one of those trendy places that charge $200 for a simple tune-up and pretend they are saving the planet by fixing rich people's hobby bikes. He constantly boasted about being a cycling expert and an advocate for alternative transportation, but the guy drove a beat-up Honda Civic and only got on a bike when he was paid to. My buddy Eli saw right through it from the beginning. He warned me about Caleb the first time they met. That guy is marking his territory, he told me after seeing Caleb rearrange the furniture in my living room. He is acting like this is his place. He was always there. On our date nights, he would show up or call with some emergency. On quiet weekends, he would text every hour or let himself in without knocking. I started to feel like a guest in my own home, but every time I brought it up, Brielle would give me the "you are being insecure" speech. What drove me crazy was how he helped himself to my things. I would buy a case of good beer, and the next day half of it would be gone because Caleb had stopped by to hang out with Brielle. My PlayStation controller showed signs of wear and tear from his gaming sessions. Even my Netflix recommendations were messed up because he was constantly watching his weird indie documentaries and foreign films on my account. Here is what really twisted my brain. Every time we had a disagreement, she would immediately call him for backup. In the middle of a discussion, she would literally say, "Hang on, I need to ask Caleb what he thinks." Not her sister, not her mom. Caleb. Always Caleb. When we picked out the engagement ring, he came along to help Brielle choose something she would love. When we looked at wedding venues, guess who was there giving his opinion on what would make Brielle's perfect day? The guy was practically planning my wedding with my fiancée while I was paying for everything. My coworkers noticed it too. They would ask me why I was letting another man have that much access to my partner, but I kept convincing myself I was being a mature, secure partner. Gordon would just shake his head and say, "Brother, you are way too cool with this situation." Eli was more direct. "You are paying this girl's bills so she can play house with another dude?" he said during a poker night. "That is not being secure, that is being a sponsor." Yes, I was just a heroic idiot. All the signs were there, but I loved her and thought marriage would naturally put her priorities in their proper place. That was my first mistake. After my accident, I was about to find out just how wrong I was. 6 weeks after the surgery, I was still in bad shape. I could not lift anything heavier than 10 pounds. I needed help getting dressed, and the painkillers made everything foggy. The doctor said a full recovery would take a minimum of 3 to 4 months, maybe longer if I did not follow instructions and rest. The power company had me on workers' compensation leave, so money was not an immediate problem, but being stuck at home unable to work was driving me crazy. I am not the type to sit around watching daytime TV, feeling sorry for myself. The compensation covered about 2/3 of my regular pay, which was still enough to handle all our bills, but not having that steady work routine felt strange. Physical therapy was brutal. 3 times a week, a physical therapist named Dr. Miles put me through exercises that felt like torture. Simple things like raising my arm above my head became huge ordeals that left me exhausted and frustrated. Dr. Miles kept saying, "Pain is just weakness leaving the body," but it really just felt like pain that refused to leave. "We are rebuilding you from the ground up," he would say, while manipulating my arm in a way that made me see colors. The exercises had names like wall climbs and pendulum swings, which sounded harmless but felt incredibly intense. My crew at work was solid, though. They took turns stopping by, bringing food, beer, and updates on who messed up what on which job site. Gordon, my crew chief, came over with a case of beer and told me straight up, "Take your time, man. We have all seen guys come back too soon and end up twice as broken. The job will still be here when you are ready." But this is when Brielle's true colors started to show. Before my accident, she was at least somewhat attentive. She would occasionally make dinner, watch movies with me, and generally act like she wanted to be there. During my recovery, however, it was like I had become an inconvenient burden she had to endure. She complained about having to pick up my prescriptions, sighed loudly when I asked for help with basic things like changing my bandages, and spent most of her time texting Caleb. Meanwhile, Caleb was constantly there, supposedly to help, but really just to hang out while I sat there like a broken spectator in my own life. Every trip to the pharmacy became a huge drama. She acted as if driving to CVS was a colossal effort, even though she barely worked and had nothing else to do. "I have to drive all the way across town." She would complain about a pharmacy that was literally a 10-minute drive away. The breaking point came one afternoon when I overheard her on the phone with a friend. I had been napping in the bedroom and woke up to the sound of her voice in the living room. "I know, it is just so hard. He is so needy right now, and I can barely do anything fun. I feel like I am stuck here playing nurse." Playing nurse to her injured fiancé who was working to support both of us. She was treating my recovery like she was babysitting a difficult child instead of caring for the man she was supposed to marry. That is when my buddy Eli started coming over more often. "Dude, your girl is treating you like a houseplant," he told me one afternoon while Brielle was out running errands. "At least houseplants get watered regularly." Eli is the kind of friend who will tell you your haircut is ridiculous and help you move a couch on the same day. He had been watching the situation with Caleb from the beginning, making comments I had brushed off because I thought I was being mature. Now that I was laid up and Brielle was showing her true colors, Eli was not holding back anymore. The real turning point came 3 weeks into my recovery when my older sister, Megan, showed up unannounced. She lives in Denver, works in tech sales, and apparently, Eli had called her when he realized how bad the situation was getting. "You look like hell," was the first thing she said, walking into our apartment like she owned the place. Caleb was there, of course, playing my PlayStation while I struggled to open a water bottle with one hand. Megan took one look at the scene, and her expression darkened. Megan has a presence that makes grown men second-guess themselves in boardrooms, and seeing her direct that energy at Caleb was like watching a shark smell blood in the water. "So, let me get this straight," she said, dropping her suitcase and fixing her stare on Caleb. "My brother is 6 weeks out from surgery. He can barely use his left arm, and you are here playing video games." Caleb mumbled something about helping, but Megan cut him off. "Helping? By monopolizing his console and drinking his beer? That is not helping. That is squatting with extra steps." When Brielle got home an hour later, Megan was in the kitchen making a real meal while I sat at the table, being properly cared for the first time in weeks. "Oh," Brielle said, clearly not expecting to see Megan. "I did not know you were coming." "Yeah, funny how that works," Megan replied without looking up from the stove. "When your fiancé is seriously injured and you are too busy playing house with the bike shop guy to let his family know." Megan stayed for a week. She cooked, helped me with my physical therapy exercises, shut Caleb down every time he showed up, and generally reminded me what it felt like to have someone who actually cared about my well-being. What happened next would be the final test, and the fact that Megan was there to witness, it was perfect. Friday started off normally. Brielle was even being somewhat helpful. She made coffee, helped me shower without much of an attitude, and seemed to be in a pretty good mood. I thought maybe Megan's presence had reminded her how to act like a decent human being. Around 2 p.m., I was feeling more sore than usual and asked Brielle if she could grab my pain medication from the bedroom. That is when the mask started to slip. "Cannot you get it yourself?" she said, not even looking up from her phone. "I am getting ready." Megan, who was reading on the couch, looked up slowly. "Getting ready for what?" "It is 2 in the afternoon. A concert. I am going with Caleb." "Interesting." Around 4 p.m., Caleb arrived. I was sitting on the couch in sweatpants, my arm in a sling, watching another man get ready for a night out with my fiancée in my own bathroom. By 5 p.m., they were both dressed and ready to go, looking like they were heading out on a date. That is when Brielle dropped the real bombshell. "Actually," she said, suddenly avoiding my gaze, "we were thinking of getting a hotel room downtown after the concert. It is going to be late, and it will just be easier than coming back here." The silence in the room was deafening. Megan slowly turned her head to look at me, then at Brielle, then back at me. "She just told you she is spending the night in a hotel with another man while you are 6 weeks out from surgery and can barely lift your arm," Megan said in a dangerously calm voice. "Am I understanding that correctly?" "Megan, mind your own business," Brielle snapped back. "Mind my own business? Your fiancé's sister should mind her business while you abandon him for a night with your backup plan? That is bold." I looked at Brielle, waiting for her to realize what she had just said, to show some small bit of consideration for the man she was supposed to marry. "Look, I know you are still recovering, but I cannot just ditch Caleb. He has been planning this for months, and he already booked the room. It is just one night. You will be fine. Have fun," I said coldly. "Great," Brielle said, grabbing her overnight bag. "I am glad you are not making a scene." They left together, laughing about something as the door closed behind them. Megan stared at the closed door for a long moment, then turned to me. "That," she said, "is the most disrespectful thing I have ever seen. Please tell me you are not going to sit back and take this." "Do not worry, Megan. I am handling it." I glanced at the engagement ring she had left behind because it did not go with her outfit. Then I smiled. Everything was about to change, and for the first time in months, I was ready. Eli showed up 30 minutes later, took one look at Megan's expression, and immediately knew things were about to get serious. "Your sister looks like she is about to plan a corporate takeover of a small country," he said to me. "I am guessing the princess finally showed her true colors. She is spending the night in a hotel with Caleb while Evan can barely lift his arm," Megan replied flatly. "So yes, It is time for a restructuring. Eli grinned like it was Christmas morning. Finally, I have been waiting for this conversation for months. Megan, I like you. The feeling is mutual. So, how fast can we dissolve this partnership? I had never loved my sister more than in that moment. We started with documentation. Eli took pictures of everything in the apartment while Megan made lists and pulled out receipts. I keep records of everything, so we had purchase dates and amounts for practically every significant item in the apartment. You literally bought everything in here, Megan said, flipping through the receipts. What did she contribute? Her sparkling personality, I replied. Mostly complaints and creating unnecessary drama, Megan added, which made Eli snort with laughter. Megan was ruthless in a way that impressed even Eli. She had been in corporate sales for years and knew how to methodically dismantle someone's life with paperwork and phone calls. Watching her work was like seeing a master craftsman use the perfect tool for each task. I started with the passwords: Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Amazon Prime, everything. I had Megan change them all. Streaming services, social media, online bank accounts, even the damn Wi-Fi password. While she was conducting this digital scorched earth campaign, Eli and I handled the physical assets. The apartment lease was the masterstroke. Since it was solely in my name, I had options. Eli got on his phone and called his cousin Dylan, who worked in property management. Yeah, I need you to walk me through the procedures. Hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to get an unauthorized occupant out. The conversation was very informative. It turned out that since Brielle was not on the lease and had no established legal residency, no official mail, no bills in her name, she was essentially a guest who had overstayed her welcome. This notice to vacate is a work of art, Megan said, reading over the legal document we had drafted. Professional, thorough, and absolutely devastating. She is going to flip out. The real masterpiece was canceling the wedding. Megan took the lead, using her corporate experience to negotiate with the vendors. I explained the situation professionally. After an hour of calls, she gave me the rundown. Most of them were surprisingly sympathetic. Apparently, fiancés being abandoned post-injury is not common enough to make people jaded. We managed to get back almost $18,000 in deposits and payments. Megan documented everything for the demand letter she was already drafting. The reception venue was particularly cool. The manager even said, "Son, I have been doing this for 20 years, and I can spot a train wreck wedding from a mile away. Dodging this bullet is probably the best thing that could have happened to you." Eli helped me pack up everything that belonged to her, while Megan coordinated everything like a general planning a military campaign. "Look, she left her engagement ring," Eli said, finding it on the dresser. "Guess it did not go with her hotel outfit." "Pack it," I said. "That is going back too, along with a bill for everything else." Eli loaded all of Brielle's belongings while Megan called a locksmith. "This is the most fun I have had since college," Megan said, testing the new locks. But she had one more surprise that left me speechless. "I took the liberty of looking up Caleb's employment at the bike shop via public records," she said, showing us her laptop screen. "He makes about $28,000 a year and has 2 kids with 2 different women that he is not paying child support for." "How did you find that?" Eli asked. "LinkedIn, Facebook, a little creative Googling, and court records. Your girlfriend's soulmate is a deadbeat dad who cannot hold down a real job. This is going to be interesting when reality hits him." The child support information was gold. 2 separate family court dockets showing Caleb was consistently behind on payments. One of the mothers had even posted public complaints about him on social media. We went to my parents' house, where Megan had already arranged for me to stay while everything settled. "You know the best part about this?" Megan said as we unloaded my things. "She thinks she won. She got her night with Caleb. She proved she could do whatever she wanted, and now she is about to find out what life is like without someone paying her way." Eli raised his glass to Megan, the sister I never had but always wanted. "To Evan, for finally making a smart business decision," Megan replied. The fireworks were about to start, and we had front row seats. Saturday was delightfully quiet. Megan delayed her flight so she could witness the show, and we spent the day at my parents' house eating my mom's cooking and preparing for what we all knew was coming. My parents were surprisingly cool with the whole situation. My dad just said, "It is about time," and my mom started setting up the guest room like I was home from college. They had never really liked Brielle, though they had always been polite. The explosion began on Sunday afternoon, and it was everything we hoped for and more. First text, sent around 1 p.m. Evan, I am back at the apartment, and I cannot get in. Did you change the locks? And my phone is not working. What is going on? Call me. Oh, this is just the appetizer, Megan said, cracking open a beer at 1:30 p.m. Wait until she realizes the full scope of the situation. An hour later, the tone changed. This is not funny. I had to borrow Caleb's phone to text you. My debit card was declined at lunch, and it was humiliating. There is some official paper on the counter that I do not understand. You need to call me right now. Card declined. Eli read over my shoulder. That means she tried to use the card linked to your account. Beautiful. The image of Brielle's card getting declined at a restaurant in front of Caleb was satisfying in a way I had not expected. By evening, full-blown panic had set in. Evan, please, I get that you are upset about everything. Maybe I should have come home. But this is all wrong. You cannot just lock me out and cancel everything. I have nowhere to go and all my stuff is gone. Caleb says this is illegal and you cannot just kick me out. We need to talk. Please. Megan was taking notes on a legal pad as if she were grading a performance. Caleb says it is illegal, she said. That is rich coming from a guy who is behind on his child support. He probably gets his legal expertise from watching daytime court shows. Eli was getting regular updates through his network of friends who knew people who knew other people. Apparently, Brielle and Caleb's triumphant return to our apartment had been a total disaster. They had arrived on Sunday afternoon expecting to continue their romantic weekend, only to find themselves locked out of an empty apartment with a notice to vacate taped to the door. Brielle's phone was dead, her bank card did not work, and she was suddenly hit with the full force of her financial dependence on me. According to my sources, Eli reported, they had a massive fight right there in the hallway. She blamed Caleb for encouraging her to stay at the hotel. He blamed her for messing up a good thing. Megan was now fully invested in the drama. Then Caleb left her there, just took his things and drove home, telling her she needed to sort out her own problems because he was not getting involved in her housing issues. Megan's laugh was sharp and satisfied. That is poetry. The same guy she was posting all over social media about their true friendship could not last one afternoon of actual problems. Monday brought a new character into this soap opera, Haley, Brielle's friend. She sent me a series of messages calling me controlling, manipulative, and emotionally immature. Megan read them and immediately pulled out her phone. Oh no, nobody talks to my brother like that. Wait, what are you doing? Teaching this woman some manners. Megan's response to Haley was surgical. Hi Haley, this is Evan's sister. I was present when your friend abandoned her injured fiancé for a hotel room with another man. Since you seem to be confused about the situation here, I will clarify. The person who broke trust is not the victim. Perhaps you would be better off helping your friend find a job instead of texting her ex. Best. Haley went silent after that. But the drama was just beginning. Thursday night, I was at my parents' place, helping my dad fix their garbage disposal, when we heard shouting from the front yard. Through the window, we saw Brielle marching up the driveway. Evan, she yelled, banging on the front door. I know you are in there. You cannot just destroy my life and then hide. Megan opened the door. Oh, look what the cat dragged in. You did this, Brielle spat. This is all your fault. Watch your language. Where's Evan? Tell him to come out right now. No, he is busy living his life. She started yelling, and my dad had to threaten to call the police before she finally left. The next morning, I got messages from Caleb that were pure comedy, trying to defend Brielle and calling me insecure. I simply replied, she is all yours now. Congratulations. He never texted back. Brielle's parents, however, did react. Her father, Richard, called to apologize for his daughter's behavior, while her mother, Donna, tried to make excuses for her. Richard cut her off. Donna, our daughter made a very poor choice. End of discussion. 2 weeks later, Brielle seemed to be doubling down on her choices in the most public way possible. She and Caleb were constantly posting on social media about their true love, trying to spin her behavior into some grand romantic story. The posts got more desperate by the day. Finally found my soulmate, you guys, accompanied by forced smiles. True love conquers all, under photos that looked increasingly staged. Even their friends started responding with confusion and skeptical emojis. This social media campaign backfired spectacularly. Family and friends saw right through it, especially when her own father commented, "Interesting timing for true love," especially after recent events. Meanwhile, Eli was plotting his own scheme, and it was diabolical. "Hey Evan, remember how Caleb was always using your PlayStation?" He asked me with a grin that made me nervous. "Yeah, why?" "Let us just say I did something while we were packing up your stuff." He pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots. "I logged into your PSN account on his profile and bought about $800 worth of games and DLC. Eli, what the hell? Relax. I used Brielle's debit card info that was saved on your account." He had used Brielle's card to buy about $800 worth of games and subscriptions on Caleb's gaming accounts, charges that would keep hitting for months until she figured out how to stop them. "You are evil," I said, laughing. "I prefer creative." Meanwhile, my life was actually getting back on track. My shoulder was healing faster than expected. Dr. Miles, my physical therapist, was impressed with my progress and started pushing me harder. "Most guys your age would still be complaining about lifting a coffee cup," he said during one session. "You are getting ready to go back to real work." At the 10-week mark, I was cleared for light duty. Gordon called me personally to let me know a desk job had opened up in dispatch. Same pay, easier hours, and the option to go back into the field once I was fully recovered. This job was perfect for my state of mind. I was coordinating crews, managing emergencies, and keeping other guys from messing up. It felt good to be useful again, even if I was not climbing poles. House hunting became my new obsession. After years of renting and funding someone else's lifestyle, the idea of building real equity was thrilling. My credit was good, I had decent savings, and the housing market was finally starting to offer properties in my budget. I found a 1,200 square foot ranch in a decent neighborhood, built in the 80s but well-maintained. 2 bedrooms, a garage, a small yard, and most importantly, it was mine. Every mortgage payment was going towards something I actually owned instead of maintaining someone else's life. Eli helped me move in and immediately claimed the 2nd bedroom as his crash pad for when his girlfriend kicks him out. "This house is good vibes," he said, testing out my new recliner. "No toxic vibrations, no bike shop losers, just a man in his territory." The house also had a workshop in the garage. I started tinkering with small engines in my spare time, lawnmowers, generators, anything that needed fixing. It was incredibly therapeutic, and I even made a little extra money selling refurbished equipment on Craigslist. Dating happened naturally. I was not looking for anything, but when you are not tied to drama and your life is in order, people notice. There was Sienna, who lived 3 streets over. We met at a hardware store while she was trying to figure out why her generator would not start. I fixed it in her driveway in 10 minutes, and she insisted on taking me to dinner as payment. We dated casually for about a month. Nothing serious, just someone cool with her own place, her own job, and no taste for chaos. When it ended naturally, we stayed friends. Work was going so well that Gordon started talking about a promotion to crew chief once I was fully recovered. My parents were thrilled to see how everything was falling into place. My mom kept bringing over homemade meals to help me settle in, but really, she just wanted to see me happy again. My dad would stop by to check on my workshop projects, showing his quiet satisfaction that his son had learned how to be an adult, without the constant stress of a toxic relationship and someone else's problems to manage. I was finally sleeping through the night for the first time in years. The only reminders of the Brielle situation came from the rare updates shared by mutual friends. Apparently, she and Caleb were having money problems, fighting constantly, and their social media presence had gone from desperate to completely silent. "She asked Haley about you last week," Megan reported during one of our Sunday calls. "Wanted to know if you were seeing anyone." And what did Haley tell her? That it is none of her business and she should focus on her own situation instead of spying on her ex. After 3 months, my life had settled into a comfortable routine I did not even realize I had been missing. Work, house projects, weekend barbecues with real friends, and a zero-tolerance policy for anyone's nonsense. That is when the universe decided to remind me that some stories do not end cleanly. I was at my house when she showed up unannounced on a Tuesday night. Eli was there, helping me install a new garage door opener, and we both heard the hesitant knock that sounded nothing like the confident woman I had known. She looked rough, really rough. Messy hair, worn-out clothes, and a defeated posture that would have made me feel sorry for her if I did not know better. "Evan," she said when I opened the door. "I need to talk to you. Please." Eli glanced at the scene and said, "I will be in the garage pretending not to listen to this unfolding drama," which made me smile in spite of everything. What she told me next was both shocking and completely predictable. "I am pregnant," she blurted out, not even trying to ease into it. I just stared at her. "Congratulations. Why are you telling me?" At that, she broke down into sobs. The ugly, desperate crying of someone whose entire world had just collapsed. "It is Caleb's," she sobbed. "But he does not want it. He says it is not his problem." Surprising. Eli appeared in the doorway at the perfect moment. Did she just say what I think she said? Yep. The irony was perfect. Caleb, the same guy who had been posting about their true love and meant-to-be connection, had bolted the second any real responsibility appeared. "Oh, this is delicious," Eli said, not even trying to hide his amusement. Then came the part that made my skin crawl. "I know you are angry, but this baby needs a father. You are a good man, Evan. You could be the father this child needs. We could make it work. I have learned from my mistakes, I swear." The audacity was staggering. She was asking me to raise another man's child, specifically the child of the man she chose over me while I was recovering from surgery. "Let me get this straight," I said, as Eli moved closer, sensing something good was coming. "You had an inappropriate relationship with Caleb, got pregnant by him, and now that he has bailed on you, you want me to step in and play dad to his kid?" "It would not be like that," she said quickly. "We would be a family. The baby would be ours." Eli made a sound like he was choking on his own spit. "Ma'am, I gotta hand it to you. You have got some serious nerve." She had abandoned me at the lowest point of my life for Caleb, spent months posting about their perfect relationship, and now that he had revealed himself to be the exact loser everyone knew he was, she wanted me to clean up the mess. "How many months are you?" I asked, more out of morbid curiosity than anything else. "For months," she whispered. That meant she had gotten pregnant right around the time she was posting those lovey-dovey pictures with Caleb. While I was dealing with the fallout of their betrayal, they were creating this new problem. "No," I said simply. "Please, Evan, I have nothing left. Haley kicked me out because I cannot pay rent. I am staying in my car. I have nowhere to go and no way to take care of a baby. You made your choice in that hotel room. Now you have to deal with the consequences," I replied coldly. "And that baby is not my responsibility. Call Caleb." Eli stepped forward. "I think it is time for you to leave." She looked at both of us, realized no amount of begging would work, and finally showed a sliver of dignity by walking away without another word. After she left, Eli and I sat on the porch with a couple of beers. Dude, that is not even karma. That is just natural selection working exactly as intended. I called Megan that night to tell her what had happened. Her reaction was immediate and perfect. Wait. The same Caleb who was her soulmate and one true love abandoned her when she got pregnant. Yep. Megan was silent for a moment. Then she started laughing. "Evan, that is the most beautiful ending I have ever heard. She literally got everything she chose and nothing she wanted." The poetic justice was incredible. Brielle had gambled everything on Caleb being a better choice than me, and reality had called her bluff in the most definitive way possible. She had traded a stable relationship with a man who loved her for a fling with a loser who could not handle the slightest bit of responsibility. Last I heard, from mutual friends, she had moved back in with her parents and was working 2 jobs to support herself and the baby. Caleb had moved to another city and wanted nothing to do with her or the child. The true love posts had completely vanished from social media. As for me, I have never been better. The house is perfect, work is great, and I am dating someone new. Megan comes to visit often, Eli is still my wingman, and my life is exactly how I always wanted it, just without the dead weight I had been carrying for 4 years. Sometimes, the trash takes itself out. Edit. Some of you asked for an update on Eli's PlayStation revenge. The charges hit about $800 over 3 months before she figured out how to stop them. Caleb went ballistic when he realized all his games were gone after I changed my account passwords. They had a huge fight about it, which probably contributed to him leaving when she got pregnant. Eli still considers it his masterpiece. Comment. Sometimes, life clears a path for us in ways we don't immediately understand. Realizing your worth is the first step toward building the life you truly deserve. It's okay to walk away from people who treat you like an option instead of a priority. Surround yourself with friends and family who stand by you when things get tough, not only when it's convenient. Healing isn't just physical recovery. It's also reclaiming your peace of mind. Choices have consequences, and owning your decisions is a sign of real maturity. When you stop carrying dead weight, you'll be surprised by how quickly you can move forward. Trust that you're strong enough to start over and build something even better. Choose your peace, protect your energy, and never settle for anything less than complete respect. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.